According to a recent study, 9 out of 10 people spend way too much money on their sim racing gear. That study is as real as my hairline and teeth. However, I'm not one of these people because I built what I believe is the best bang for buck sim racing rig you can build right now. And just to be clear, best bang for buck does not mean buying the cheapest option. It means buying something you will not regret for as little money as possible. And that's what this sim rig is. Almost. Now before we even talk about wheels and pedals, none of this works without one thing. This thing is by far the most expensive part of my setup. And technically you could argue it wasn't even completely necessary, because I could have just used my console. But the problem is, on console you are extremely limited on things like hardware support, hardware settings, image quality, and there is higher input lag as well, which is a big one. And the most popular simulation, iRacing, isn't even available on console.
What?
So if you are serious about sim racing, there is really no way around a PC. Now, you don't necessarily need a super powerful one, but it certainly affects not only your frame rate and overall graphics settings, but also your options to go for a VR headset or a triple screen setup. I wanted to keep all options open, so I went with a pretty solid build, and to save as much money as possible, I just built it myself with a few YouTube tutorials. There are thousands of rig options out there, from simple desk mounts to full motion platforms. But since this video is about best bang for buck, there is really no way around an aluminum rig. Even the cheapest aluminum rigs deliver better performance and experience than most other options,
Hell yeah.
while offering the one thing that makes them so unique: unlimited customization. Not only can you adjust it almost endlessly to fit your body, you can also mount pretty much everything to it wherever you want. Mouse and keyboard trays, button boxes, storage. And once you win the lottery, maybe even a seatbelt tensioner, which I'm still hoping for. Whether you like the slightly bulky look or not is of course up to you, but it's hard to argue with the benefits. And I've honestly never heard of anyone regretting an aluminum rig. Originally, I planned to buy the SimLab GT1 Evo. It's affordable, it's simple, and widely considered one of the best entry-level aluminum rigs. But in the end, I decided to build my own. The main reason was we simply don't have much space, but my daughter allowed me to put the rig in her room, so I felt obligated to use every inch as efficiently as possible, and this custom design allowed me to push the rig much further into the corner. Of course, I also wanted to keep the cost low and the design simple. That's why I made the wheelbase profiles taller and mounted the monitor to them as well. This solution slightly reduces adjustability between the monitor and the wheelbase, but there is ways to work around that, which I will talk about later. Choosing the right seat is really important, and there are two main factors: style and size. And with my first seat, I got both of them wrong. There is no doubt that a good looking seat adds to the overall experience. So for my first setup, I went with a Halo bucket seat, but as soon as I installed it, I immediately regretted it. Getting in and out was much harder than it needed to be. I kept hitting my head whenever my wife or kids called me. The seating angle between my legs and the back was also too tight, and while the seat fit my thick, juicy butt perfectly, the shoulder area was a bit too narrow, constantly pushing my shoulders forward, which made it really uncomfortable for longer sessions. At 6'2", the number of seats that truly fit is limited anyway, so I started looking for something more open and comfortable. And the Sparco Evo XL is a very popular choice in that category, so that's what I went with. I chose the gaming version, which, as far as I know, is basically identical to the FIA version, just without the certification and a few €100 cheaper. I spent several hours in this seat almost every day, and while it isn't really soft, it's very comfortable and supportive. Now before we talk about the wheelbase, in my last video I started this thing where I show a different model car each video. These were kindly sent to me by CK Model Cars. I'm not getting paid or anything, I just have a passion for these little cars, so that's why I do it. And this one is the Mamba Mercedes AMG GT3 from the 2022 Nürburgring 24-hour race.
Nice.
Most major manufacturers offer very capable hardware, and the differences in performance are smaller than they used to be. So in order to choose a wheelbase, it makes sense to look at reliability, ecosystem and customer support from the different brands. And after quite a bit of research, I ended up choosing SeaMagic. Their wheel selection isn't the largest and visually they wouldn't have been my first choice, but across forums, reviews and user feedback, SeaMagic constantly had one of the strongest reputations. In other words, you can't really go wrong with SeaMagic. Now, the even more important question, how much Newton meter do you actually need? More Newton meter means more strength, more detail, but also a higher price. And since I didn't have a real reference to what 3 compared to 25 Newton meters in a wheelbase would feel like, I relied on the experience of more seasoned sim racers. And they generally agree that the sweet spot is around 12 Newton meters for most people. Going lower can leave you wanting more, while higher torque quickly becomes more expensive. So I chose the 12 Newton meter SeaMagic Alpha Evo. And honestly, if you're not built like this guy, that's more than enough. I've only experienced clipping maybe twice, and that was on very demanding tracks with aggressive force feedback settings that I usually don't drive. As for the wheel, I chose the GT Neo. It's not only the cheapest wheel SeaMagic offers, it's also good looking, features customizable shift lights and buttons, and when I first unpacked it, I was honestly blown away by the build quality. It's heavy and solid and has crisp buttons. And the rubber grips work perfectly with gloves. And honestly, the steering wheel in my BMW does not feel that good. There is a common saying in the sim racing community, the most important upgrade you can make is a good set of pedals. And that's why I went with the VRS Direct Force Pro pedals. I chose them in a similar way as my wheelbase, by doing a lot of research and comparing user feedback. And one thing stood out. Whenever people discussed whether other pedals were good or not, they were often compared to the VRS pedals. So I figured if everything else gets measured against them, they are probably doing something right. Once properly adjusted, good pedals almost disappear while driving. They feel smooth, natural and predictable and make braking consistency much easier, which is exactly what these do. I also added a SeaMagic haptic pedal reactor to the brake pedal to simulate the ABS kicking in. And I have to say it really works well. For around 100 euros, it's something I wouldn't wanna miss. If you are thinking, this massive thing can possibly be the best bang for buck, you are right. This is the 57-inch Samsung G9 and it is ridiculously expensive.
What?
After my PC, it's the second most expensive part of my setup, and ironically it's the first thing I would change if I had more space. Because what I would really love is a proper triple screen setup, which even with 3 good 32-inch monitors would still be cheaper than this monitor. But as I mentioned earlier, every inch matters and triples would simply take up too much space. And since my
small head is a little bit sensitive,
VR was not an option for me, and being able to see my physical setup while driving is also kinda cool. So that left only one realistic choice, single screen. Most people in this situation probably go for a 49-inch ultra-wide monitor, but for me those aren't tall enough, wide enough or curved enough to feel immersive. So I made the financially questionable decision to buy this thing. And don't get me wrong, it's a fantastic monitor. It's immersive and you can see actually a lot of what's going on around you. It's also great for productivity and absolutely worth the neck pain while working on your video scripts. But if I ever magically gain more space, triple screens are definitely coming. Above it, I mounted a cheap 27-inch 1080p monitor just to make sure the neck pain has one more reason to kick in. It's not necessary, but these monitors are so cheap on Amazon, and with this monitor arm for about 30 bucks, it's absolutely worth it. I use it for race data or a picture of my biggest inspiration to keep me motivated while driving. When you look at people's aluminum rigs online, you could think they come from factory with a Stream Deck already attached. These things are like the pinky ring of a fat Italian mafia boss. It's just not the same without it. It's easy to install and mapping the buttons takes only a few seconds. I use it mainly for my box settings and preset messages, and once you have it, you will never go without one. Technically, you could map all of these functions to a keyboard, but that's just not cool enough. The finishing touches that give the rig its personality. LED lighting for atmosphere, speakers, because my head is too small for headphones, a fan to survive the summer months, plus a mousepad and keyboard holder that I actually improvised myself. If you are curious, there is a short on my channel showing how I built it. There's also a bit of decoration to stare at while waiting for the rest of the field to grid. I mean, none of this makes you faster, but it makes the whole setup feel more like home and adds to the overall experience. I also added an extension rod to the wheelbase. As I mentioned in the rig section, my monitor and wheel distance isn't very adjustable, so the extension brings the wheel closer exactly to where I need it. As I hinted a few times throughout this video, there are definitely a few upgrades on my wish list. A triple screen setup once I have more space, a seatbelt tensioner once I have more money, and bass shakers once I'm no longer afraid of annoying my entire family with the vibrations. Other than that, I'm extremely happy with this setup and I genuinely think it's a really great bang for buck sim rig. Now if you think this video sucked, you should definitely check out my other videos because you will not believe how much they suck as well. Thanks for watching and I hope I'll see you in the next one.